I am my father's lawyer, and I will prove he is innocent." Judge Wallace Thorne thundered from the bench, pounding his gavel and treating Marcus Davis like a spectacle. Marcus 52. And a janitor stood shackled and humiliated, while officers smirked and the prosecutor read charges. Missing tools, 2 Titan phones, and $620 found in the cleaning closet by the maintenance car where Marcus worked. Thorne sneered at Marcus's nationality and mocked his job, calling him useless and degrading his life with cruel jokes. As if contempt could substitute for evidence, the courtroom laughed. When the judge suggested the items being plainly placed in the closet proved guilt, Marcus felt the weight of centuries of scorn, more than the metal at his wrists. He had no record, he had only the slow, steady work of cleaning and the small dignity of routine. Until this morning, when he had been dragged from the basement like an animal, the prosecutor listed the possessions and implied motive. No one asked how they had come to sit where they were found. The judge declared a presumption of guilt in his tone alone, and ordered Marcus taken to pretrial detention, certain the clerk would finish the rest of the performance. Only seconds later, the courtroom door swung open and everything shifted. Samira Davies entered, braids tight, face set, carrying a thick folder. "Objection, Your Honor," she cried, striding forward without waiting for permission. "I'm the lawyer for my father." The room froze. Thorne scoffed at her youth and skin, claiming an unlicensed black woman had no place instructing his court. But Samira did not flinch. She advanced like a tide placed documents on the bench, and spoke with a voice that combined rage and careful preparation. She produced a document signed by the building administrator, authorizing removal of obsolete electronic items 3 days before the alleged theft, and pointed entry logs showing others had accessed the closet after Marcus's shift. She held up emails and screenshots that hinted at a plan to clear certain items and dispose of evidence the prosecutor used to easy assumptions. Grew pale as Samira outlined how the items could have been moved by authorized staff and then left where Marcus worked to manufacture a case against them. Thorne tried to laugh it off, calling her a meddling neighborhood girl and insisting the court would not be instructed by someone with no license. But his mockery frayed as she produced a signed receipt and an internal memo ordering rapid disposal of particular devices. Samira questioned the chain of custody, showed that surveillance footage had gaps and had been overwritten, and explained that magnetic card logs placed other employees in the closet at times that contradicted the prosecution's timeline. She presented an internal ledger with unexplained credits and a maintenance supervisor's name appearing on a delivery slip that did not match the plaintiff's account. When the prosecutor attempted to close ranks, she produced a clerk's sworn statement, admitting he'd been told to make problems disappear, along with an audio where an administrator suggested Marcus would be an easy scapegoat. The judge barked about procedure and threatened sanctions. But Samira anticipated each procedural obstacle. She subpoenaed IT records on the spot, demanded preservation of footage, and insisted on a pause to verify access logs. Officers who had laughed earlier now watched carefully. Outside whispers about conspiracy spread. Reporters sensed the angle and edged closer to the courthouse doors. Marcus escorted, but calmer, heard for the first time that someone was fighting on his behalf. Something like hope warmed or despair had settled. He remembered the humiliation, the way men with badges could make law seem a club for the comfortable, and he thought of the letters his daughter sent and of mornings swept into routine. Samira had learned law in public libraries and at night, not in lecture halls, and she had the hunger of someone who had seen injustice and chosen not to look away. She methodically connected timestamps, voicemails, inventory records, and access logs into a portrait of deliberate orchestration. Items moved, records altered. A janitor blamed while others profited. Each time Thorne tried to smother a fact with sarcasm, she produced another document. Another witness, another timestamp. The judge railed about order, but signed an order to preserve evidence with a hand that trembled. As more names surfaced, administrators with motive, a maintenance crew with unexplained withdrawals, ledger entries that refused to balance, the case stopped being simple theft and became a story about power used to silence a worker. Samira called an IT tech, who confirmed an internal override of footage, presented a maintenance ledger with entries time-stamped after Marcus's shift, produced a delivery slip contradicting the prosecution's timeline, read aloud a chain of messages showing urgency in removing specified items. She offered names, dates, and an audio that sealed the pattern. Marcus listened. Hope, kindling or despair, had lived too long. Samira prepared to call the next witness. certain that testimony would further expose the chain of command and the way power had been used to target the vulnerable. And as she rose, the clerk at the end of the gallery cleared his throat. And this trial is not going to be dictated by a stupid, illiterate teenager with bad braids. At that instant, Marcus lifted his head. His gaze met his daughter's. For the first time, she looked serene. And there, in the midst of the pain and the chains, something shone pride, fury, hope. Samira took a deep breath, opened the folder, and pulled out another sheet. "I have an email," she said, her voice firm, "where your name is mentioned." Judge Thorne, the judge blinked. "What the hell are you saying?" "An email from the building administration to a private law firm. It mentions a strategy to clean up the payroll of immigrants, especially black ones, without officially firing them. A plan you recommended as legally effective." "That's absurd," the prosecutor muttered. "I have the domain trace," she continued, "and a declaration from the former committee secretary who will testify that she met you at a Midtown restaurant to coordinate the case." The judge took a step back. "You're playing with fire. I'm not playing." Samira said, "I'm uncovering the truth you buried with my father." A murmur filled the courtroom. The prosecutor stopped smiling. The officer avoided the bench. "This is not just about my father," Samira said, her voice rising. "It's about everyone silenced and humiliated by a system protecting the powerful, while crushing those who clean after them. Today will prove that power doesn't make anyone untouchable." The judge struck his gavel, trembling. Hearing suspended. "Get her out." "Try it," Samira said. "I have more." The uproar froze the judge. Public attention cornered him. "Finally," he said through clenched teeth. "Let it be noted, Miss Davies is authorized to present her statement under supervision. Temporarily." Samira ignored him and faced Prosecutor Delgado. "I request permission to interrogate the prosecutor." Gasps filled the room. Thorne hesitated, then nodded stiffly. Samira placed her papers on a table. "Prosecutor Delgado, on the day of the alleged theft, when was it reported?" "At 6:47 p.m. He replied. "And who worked the cleaning shift?" "Marcus Davis, the accused." "Correct now," she said, showing a laminated sheet. Read the name in the storeroom entry log. At 5:12 p.m. he read quietly, "Howard Vance and his position. Head of maintenance." "Exactly. The person who entered before the theft was Vance, not my father." Delgado tried to object. "That doesn't prove anything, really. Because here," she said, producing a cassette, "is the hallway camera footage, showing Vance entering with a sealed box and leaving without it. 15 minutes later, that doesn't prove what was inside." He stammered. "It does," Samira replied, showing another page. "This inventory report states the box's tag. Disused cell phones, tools, everything later found beside my father's card." Her words were sharp and calm. Delgado was sweating. "Do you want to know what else she asked, holding up another paper. "A message Vance sent his girlfriend that night. We finally got rid of the old black guy. The judge is friends with the boss. Everything will go smoothly." Delgado jumped up. "That could be fake." "Verified by a forensic expert," she replied, showing a signed statement. Then she took out her phone and finally, "Listen to this." A recording echoed through the courtroom. "If we just leave everything in his closet, who's going to believe a black janitor?" The voices were unmistakable. Howard Vance and Prosecutor Delgado. The color drained from Delgado's face. "That was manipulated," he whispered. "Authenticated 3 times by an independent lab," Samira countered. Now every eye turned from Marcus to the judge and prosecutor. Marcus's eyes glistened with pride. Thorne sat frozen, exposed by the same girl he dismissed. Delgado slumped into his chair, defeated as the crowd erupted. Filming every moment stopped the recording. Thorne shouted, "This court is closed." But no one obeyed. A woman yelled, "That's not a judge, that's a criminal in a suit." Security hesitated, then a team in black uniforms entered. "We have a warrant," the lead agent announced. "Search of Judge Wallace Thorne's office. Investigation for corruption, racism, and cover-up," Thorne stammered. "This is madness," but no one listened. Delgado was handcuffed. Vance was arrested. Hours later, more names fell. Administrators, businessmen, judges, a network of corruption disguised as law. Marcus Davis was released that night. No charges, no apology. Only his daughter beside him under the flashing cameras. Weeks later, a headline spread. Young black woman dismantles judicial corruption network. To free her father, Samira gave no interviews. In her notebook, where she had once studied law at 12, she wrote one sentence: "I didn't come to ask for permission." I came to speak for those who can't. A civil rights firm offered her a full scholarship. But before answering, she took her father to see the ocean, his first time a year later. The courthouse closed for renovations, though everyone knew why it had been brought down. Not by time, but by a voice once told to stay silent. A daughter who cleared her father's name and ignited justice, with truth, courage, and relentless fury.